Hello, this is Dr. Charmaine Gregory, and this is the Nocturnist Diary. I have been doing a series lately, which is focused on Dr. Mom stories and essentially my personal stories. So far, I've shared how emergency medicine chose me, and I've also shared a story about self-care being paramount in allowing for us as providers to serve the patients that we see on a daily basis. Today, I wanted to talk about when the doctor becomes the patient and what happens. Now, my story could be perceived as pretty benign compared to what other colleagues have gone through as patients. My straw that was drawn was a long one. This wasn't a terminal illness or something that required a huge hospital stay or something like that. But that experience that I had with being the patient has really taught me how to see things from the patient's perspective. And that lesson is invaluable. I feel like a lot of times when we are in training as physicians, we aren't really allowed to put ourselves in the patient's shoes. We aren't really allowed to think about the things that we say and the actions that we do, how these things affect those that we are serving. My story basically revolves around my knee. So I had a knee injury, and some of you may already know this. This is something that occurred a few years ago and was quite mysterious in what the etiology of it was. Some hypothesized that it was because I wasn't training adequately and I was running 5Ks without good training and likely injured my knee that way. I'm not sure how it happened, but the bottom line is I had this knee injury and my leg basically became extremely swollen. At one point, there was some thought that I might have had a deep vein clot, and I had a couple of ultrasounds looking to see if that was the case. And then I had an MRI, which basically did not reveal the reason why my knee was acting up. So I saw the orthopedic surgeon. I had multiple attempts at fluid being released from my knee via a needle being pushed in there and the fluid taken out. I went on different medications. I was on a anti-inflammatory medicine, like a basic one, and then I was ramped up to an even more intense one, and things just were not getting any better. And I did have an encounter, so kind of broadening the possibilities of what could be going on. I was referred to a doctor that specializes in immune diseases. And I just remember sitting in the encounter, and I have no qualms with this individual. I feel like they were just doing their job, but I also felt like they weren't listening to me because they knew I was a physician, and they basically just, started talking in technical terms and not really thinking about the big picture. And there was a bias there. And ultimately, my biggest thought was the suggestion that was made was one to go on immunomodulating medications. But this was a suggestion that was made without fully, defining what the diagnosis was. So if I was someone that did not have some background in medicine, or I had not read about some of the things that were suggested, I would have easily put myself on this medicine unduly. And so, it just made me pause because I just think about even the simple encounters that I may have in the emergency department where I may be telling somebody that they're now having a new diagnosis of diabetes because they're presenting to me with a very high blood sugar and they have all the symptoms, wanting to be using the bathroom frequently for urine, drinking a lot, feeling constantly thirsty. And just the impact of that statement to the patient, you just never really realize the deep impact that that kind of thing can make. And as I sat in the patient's seat and I heard what was being told to me and the suggestions that were being made, in my mind, I was thinking, this is not what I'm going to do, because I don't fully believe that that is what's wrong with me. Now, the undiscerning individual who is not aware of some of the information that I am would have easily, started these medications and, could have had a different situation occur. Now, when I talk to people about new diagnoses or about therapies that I'm suggesting, I think about that experience and just remember, if this were my mom and she has no medical knowledge like I do, she doesn't have the medical knowledge I do, how would I explain it to her? How would I explain this in simple terms so that she can understand? And that was the biggest thing that I took away from my experience as a patient, is just really making sure that when I talk to my patients, that I really try to break it down to levels in which my mom would fully understand it and would be able to follow the steps. The other thing is, my spouse was not at the appointment with me. And, in a way, it just reminded me also that it's always such a good idea to have another set of ears present when you're getting information about your health. And, it's also pretty good and suggested that if you're getting a diagnosis and, it's a big diagnosis, so something like diabetes, that there are more than one touch points. So, you have your spouse or your family or a friend or someone else that's there to kind of hear the same things, because things that you may not pick up on, that other person will pick up on. And then ultimately, once you leave the encounter, to get a second opinion from another medical provider to ensure that everybody is looking at all the information on the same page and coming to the same conclusion. Because we are human beings. As physicians, we are definitely human beings, and we try our best every day with the information that we have in front of us and with the knowledge that we've gained over the time of our training, but we're not perfect. So it is always just really good to think about, if you get, a diagnosis mentioned to you, that you research it once you've left the encounter, you talk to other providers, and just make sure that everybody is on the same page. Now, ultimately what ended up happening was I did not have a problem that required immune modulators. I actually ended up having my diagnosis revealed when I had knee surgery. So I went an entire year, despite MRIs, despite getting fluid off my knee multiple times and having it tested in the lab. It ultimately didn't come out as to what was happening until I had surgery 1 year after the symptoms started. And that is why, the body is such a dynamic force and entity that, even when we have pieces of the data and we're not taking that bird's eye view and we're not exploring all the possibilities, we just don't always come to the answer. And so ultimately what ended up happening was I had a torn meniscus. And so he went in and did the surgery and explored my knee, and it turns out I had a torn meniscus and I had so much debris inside there. I had suffered, unfortunately, lots of atrophy, which is a loss of muscle that, literally when you looked at my right leg, my right thigh, it was half the size of my left thigh. And all of that occurred, and I lost range of motion in my knee. I'm still recovering from that even years later. But, ultimately, I'm just very happy that we finally, came to the answer, and it took time. So that's my other advice that I give to my patients as well, is like when you see me in the acute setting, I'm only seeing a snapshot of your life. I'm only seeing a snapshot accompanied by very limited data. Okay. So I am only hearing a piece of your story. You know, the person that knows you over the long haul is really going to be the one that may very well find out what is really wrong with you, because number one, they know you, they know more information about you than I ever will know. And they also can see the evolution of the process. So, you know, they can see the dynamics of how your body is working. And that is another pearl that I got from being a patient. So the three main things that I learned were, one, make sure that the dialogue that I'm having with the patients that I see and provide care for is one on a level where I'm assured that they understand. And if they're not getting full understanding, that there is someone else present that will be able to fill in the blanks. And then the second thing that I learned was it is always a good idea to get a second opinion when there's any doubt about what the particular diagnosis is. And then the third thing is, you know, just be aware that everyone in this science and this field of medicine are human beings, and there is always going to be that one piece of the puzzle that's missing, that sometimes it takes that person that knows you for the long haul and that can have the bird's eye view to figure it out. So that's all I have for you today. I just wanted to share my story and to share what I learned from being a patient and what I try to dig into my thoughts and my feelings about when I am interacting with those that I serve night after night in the emergency department. This is Dr. Charmaine Gregory, and this is the Nocturnist Diary. Thank you so much for watching and reading, and I hope that this has encouraged you in some way, shape, or form, and that if it has, that you will comment below or share it with someone who would also benefit. So for now, I hope that you will have an amazing day and that you will be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.